boasting about his unique perch in popular culture. I assure the former leader of the free world that yes, his reality TV series changed history. The conference room that we're in today has the generic feeling of a workspace that could exist anywhere, with a scuffed-up long wooden table, a TV projection screen, and rolling chairs. Only if you squint, though, does it resemble the boardroom from The Apprentice. In a way, we're on a working set. The NBC series was shot in Trump Tower, and Trump charged the show's creator, Mark Burnett, hundreds of thousands of dollars to lease office space. Okay, so we had 2 floors of this building, big floors, taken up by The Apprentice, Trump says after we watched the scene in which he first uttered the words, "You're fired," on TV. Down below, we had the boardroom. There were hundreds of people that worked on the show. You know, this television stuff is great. You'll think they'll have like 2 cameras? He pauses for effect. They had 2 cameras on every person, especially after it became a big hit, actually. Trump goes on to say that he improvised the catchphrase that helped propel the series into the ratings stratosphere. The show cast Trump as a no-nonsense CEO tasked with gleefully firing mediocre job candidates and later celebrities who couldn't cut it in his version of the high-stakes world of corporate America. When I said you're fired, the whole building shook, Trump says of that first episode. Everybody, because they have so many screens, they saw what was going on in the boardroom. The place just reverberated. People were screaming. They were shouting. The crew, the makeup people. Everyone was watching it. There were hundreds of them, and they went crazy. He sounds like a retired high school football coach, lounging in a diner in the middle of the day, rewinding the clock on his favorite plays. As a storyteller, Trump can struggle with facts, the chronology of events, and what exactly he accomplished as president, but the details of that day from more than 17 years ago flow freely. In fact, he says, they had to stop the tape. They had to get them to shut up because you can't have that. Although, Trump seems to imagine the sound of a crew cheering for him again right now. They could have left it. It would have been interesting. But the people in their homes went crazy too, because that first night, when it aired, that first show, I got calls from people that I hadn't spoken to in years. They said, that was the most unbelievable show. As he crisscrosses through time, his brain misfires. Even he can't accept that a version of himself existed that was once broadly uncontroversial and popular. So it actually got very good reviews, which is hard for me because they hate to give me good reviews, Trump says. I got unbelievable reviews. Now, that was before my political days, okay? You know. Trump makes a face like a toddler being forced to eat his vegetables. If this were a scene from a reality show and not real life, the producers might cut to a confessional booth where Trump would look into the camera and admit that he regretted running for president and that starring in The Apprentice was the best job he'd ever had. Of course, on The Apprentice, Trump, unlike the contestants, never gave confessional interviews. By issuing commands and beheading the unworthy, he was simply the voice of God. He squints at me from across the room. Go ahead. Show me another one. And so I play another clip, and another one, and another one. Chapter 1. Keeping up with the Trumps. Throughout his career as a real estate mogul, Donald Trump agreed to practically every interview request that came his way, because he believed there was no such thing as bad publicity. He followed this same strategy as a reality TV star. That's how I first started talking to him in 2004 as a 22-year-old reporter at Newsweek covering The Apprentice. Most celebrities employ a publicist to field their interview requests, but such a system proved too bureaucratic and perhaps too costly for Trump. Instead of going through a PR flack, I'd call his office at Trump Tower, and his secretary, Norma Federer, would patch me through to his desk or cell phone so quickly that Trump wouldn't even stop to ask which publication was on the other line. I love Newsday was a regular salutation. After I'd then tell him that I was actually calling from Newsweek, he'd restart our conversation by listing off new superlatives, leaving the poor reporters at Newsday in a ditch. Nearly 20 years later, when I announce in the press I'm writing this book, Trump reaches out to me through his office, offering to be the first person I interview. And given the circumstances, that he's not only the central figure of my book, but a former U.S. president in gold.